When most people leave the house, the moment feels routine. Keys in hand, shoes on, the door closes, and life moves forward. For a dog, that same moment carries meaning. Not because of time, but because of safety. Dogs do not measure absence in minutes or hours. What registers first is whether the environment feels settled or unresolved. Research in canine behavior shows that dogs begin reacting to leaving cues almost immediately, often before separation actually happens. Here's the important part most owners never hear. Distress usually starts before the door closes, not after. That means many anxious behaviors are not caused by being alone, but by the state the body is left in. Some dogs relax easily. Others pace, vocalize, or destroy objects. Those reactions are not stubbornness or defiance. They reflect a nervous system that never fully settled. Leaving is rarely about toys, treats, or routines. It's about what the body expects next. If understanding that difference matters, staying here will help. The moment the environment changes, long before the door becomes part of the situation, a dog has already begun responding to what is happening inside the home. The trigger is rarely the exit itself. What matters is the shift unfolding around the space. Movement often becomes quicker and more purposeful. Voice tone changes slightly even when no stress is intended. Familiar sounds such as keys, bags, or shoes appear earlier than usual. The path taken through rooms becomes less fluid and more direct. Dogs do not need verbal explanations to recognize what is coming. Pattern awareness does that work automatically. The body starts adjusting before separation officially occurs. That adjustment explains why some dogs suddenly follow closely, lift their head from rest, or abandon relaxed positions while the owner is still present. Nothing negative has happened yet. No door has opened. No goodbye has occurred. Predictability, however, has already weakened. When predictability fades, the nervous system remains active. Alertness increases because rhythm has changed. The reaction is not centered on being alone. The response reflects a break in the familiar flow of events. When daily patterns feel rushed, emotionally charged, or inconsistent, the body stays prepared. When patterns feel slow, familiar, and stable, the body releases tension on its own. That contrast explains why the moments leading up to departure carry more influence than the farewell itself. By the time the door opens, the nervous system has often already chosen its state. Relaxation or vigilance has been decided before the exit ever happens. The departure does not create the response. The internal shift begins earlier, shaped by pace, tone, and predictability throughout the home. What being alone actually means to a dog. Humans experience absence through time. Minutes are counted, hours are anticipated, schedules offer reassurance. Dogs do not interpret absence that way. What matters instead is internal condition. A dog does not evaluate how long someone will be gone. The body evaluates whether the environment feels resolved or unresolved. When safety is present, physical systems release tension naturally. Breathing slows without effort, muscles soften, awareness drops into a resting state. That physical release allows sleep and recovery to happen. When safety is missing, time does not move forward internally. The body remains paused in readiness. Waiting becomes uncomfortable, even in a quiet home. The issue is not loneliness. The difficulty comes from unresolved alertness. Silence without safety does not register as calm. It feels incomplete. Stillness without closure keeps the nervous system engaged. That engagement explains why waiting can feel overwhelming even when nothing appears wrong on the surface. Stress does not come from being alone. Stress comes from remaining in an unsettled state with no clear signal that it is safe to rest. Once that difference becomes clear, many behaviors stop feeling confusing. Pacing, vocalizing, or restlessness are not acts of protest or defiance. Those behaviors reflect a body that never received permission to stand down. When the environment communicates safety clearly, rest follows without instruction. When safety cues are unclear, alertness continues. Viewing absence as a state rather than a duration changes how separation-related behavior is understood. The one thing that actually matters before you leave. Before leaving, most people focus on preparation. Toys are arranged, food is offered, music plays softly. Reassuring words are spoken. Those actions feel supportive, yet none address the most important factor. A dog does not need stimulation before separation. Entertainment does not create calm. Reassurance alone does not regulate the nervous system. Distraction works only after regulation already exists. Calm is not an emotion. Calm is a physical condition inside the body. A dog can have access to toys and remain tense. A dog can eat and stay alert. Background sound can play while the body remains on edge. External additions do not settle the nervous system by themselves. Regulation must come first. Everything else supports what already exists internally. When regulation is present, rest follows naturally. When regulation is missing, preparation efforts fall short. That difference explains why one dog sleeps almost immediately after departure, while another paces for hours. The house remains the same. The setup does not change. Only internal state differs. Most advice focuses on managing surroundings, yet internal condition determines the outcome. If the body feels safe, recovery and rest occur without effort. If the body remains uncertain, no amount of enrichment fully works. Understanding this priority shifts attention away from controlling behavior and toward creating stability before leaving. Once the nervous system is settled, the rest resolves on its own. Why loving goodbyes often increase anxiety? Most people leave with affection. A softer voice appears. Touch lasts longer than usual. Attention lingers at the doorway for an extra moment. From a human perspective, that behavior feels caring and supportive. The intention is comfort. The message is reassurance. For a dog, the interpretation works differently. Words are not processed for meaning or promise. Emotional intention is not evaluated the way humans expect. What matters is internal state. When a goodbye carries heightened emotion, the nervous system receives a clear signal that something important is happening. That signal is not calm or neutral. Emotional emphasis creates contrast with the normal rhythm of the home. Contrast generates anticipation. Anticipation keeps the body alert. Increased affection, altered tone, or prolonged attention can communicate that the environment is shifting in a way that requires monitoring. What feels loving to a person can feel unpredictable to a dog. Unpredictability keeps regulation from completing. Dogs settle through consistency rather than reassurance. Familiar rhythm matters more than emotional emphasis. When departures look ordinary and repeatable, the body receives a message of continuity. Nothing escalates, nothing unusual follows. A calm, unremarkable exit tells the nervous system that no new condition needs managing. Over time, repeated experiences of neutral departures build trust in the pattern itself. The body learns that separation does not carry hidden meaning. No threat follows the moment. No adjustment is required after the door closes. That lesson settles deeper than any final word or gesture. It communicates directly through physical experience rather than cognition. When the body recognizes safety through repetition, anxiety loses its foothold. Calm exits do not feel cold to a dog. Calm exits feel familiar. Familiarity allows regulation to complete without effort. The space you leave behind speaks for you. Once the door closes, the environment replaces the person who left. For a dog, the surrounding space becomes the only available source of information. Every sound, scent, and visual detail gains importance. Familiar sounds provide continuity. Routine noises tell the body that daily life has not shifted into something unfamiliar. That continuity reduces the need for vigilance. Familiar scent serves a similar purpose. It creates a sense of presence without stimulation. No excitement is introduced. No alert response is triggered. The message is quiet and steady. The space still feels occupied in a familiar way. Layout and arrangement also matter. A predictable environment reduces scanning behavior. When objects remain where expected, the nervous system does not feel compelled to prepare for change. Safety does not come from silence alone. Silence without familiarity can feel empty or unresolved. An empty house is not automatically calming. Calm emerges only when the space remains recognizable. When the environment looks, sounds, and smells consistent with what existed before departure, the body does not register disruption. Nothing new requires evaluation. Nothing unclear needs monitoring. That consistency allows regulation to complete naturally. The environment does not need to entertain or distract. Stimulation is not the goal. Engagement is not the solution. The role of the space is simpler. It needs to quietly communicate that nothing has shifted in a way that requires action. When the environment repeats the same story every day, the nervous system understands that rest is permitted. No problem solving is required. No anticipation is necessary. That understanding allows tension to release on its own. Rest becomes possible, not because effort was applied, but because continuity was preserved. If this kind of clarity is useful, subscribing will keep these insights coming. When dogs cry after you leave, crying after separation is not a strategy. It is not a calculated response or a behavioral test. The sound is a release. The nervous system has entered an activated state, and excess energy needs an outlet. Alertness remains high. Resolution has not occurred. The body searches for a signal that confirms safety. This reaction is not attention-seeking behavior. It is not stubbornness or disobedience. The response reflects difficulty completing the transition from presence to separation. The stress response remains open because nothing signaled that settling was safe. Ignoring that distress does not teach independence. It creates uncertainty. The body does not learn that discomfort passes naturally. The lesson absorbed is that discomfort remains unresolved. When resolution does not occur, vigilance stays active. Calm, brief reassurance serves a different function. It does not reward emotional activation. It restores orientation. It helps the body recognize that distress is not dangerous. Separation does not equal loss. This moment has an ending. That understanding allows regulation to continue. There is an important difference between reinforcing anxiety and restoring safety. One prolongs activation. The other allows energy to discharge. Over time, repeated experiences of separation that resolve predictably change the internal response. Crying becomes unnecessary because the nervous system no longer needs to signal distress. The behavior fades not through suppression, but through resolution. Quiet replaces panic because the body has learned that safety returns. No force is involved. No fear is required. Regulation completes because the process feels predictable. When the nervous system understands that separation has a reliable conclusion, emotional activation loses its purpose. What dogs learn from how you return? Dogs do not process separation through schedules, clocks, or the length of time spent away. What registers most clearly is emotional outcome. The ending matters more than the absence itself. The moment you walk back into the space becomes the reference point the body stores. If that return feels rushed, tense, or corrective, regulation does not complete. Alertness remains active. The nervous system stays guarded, preparing for another disruption before the current one has fully resolved. In that condition, separation never truly closes. It simply pauses. When return energy carries urgency or frustration, the body receives mixed information. Presence arrives, yet safety does not fully follow. That unfinished state keeps vigilance alive. A calm, steady return changes that process. When presence re-enters without emotional escalation, something important happens internally. The stress response completes. Muscles release. Breathing adjusts. The body receives confirmation that nothing followed, which required defense. No threat appeared. No correction escalated the moment. Dogs are not analyzing behavior or replaying events during this transition. Evaluation does not occur in the mind. The body asks a simpler question: is it safe to let go now? When the answer consistently arrives through experience, the nervous system learns an essential lesson. Safety is not created through control or discipline. Safety is rebuilt through emotional consistency. Each calm return reinforces the same message. Separation ends, uncertainty resolves, relief follows. Over time, anticipation itself begins to change. The body no longer prepares for disruption. Expectation shifts toward closure. That shift influences behavior long before the next departure occurs. When return patterns feel reliable, internal readiness softens earlier. The response to absence transforms because the ending has proven safe again and again, teaching the body that you always come back. Confidence does not appear suddenly. For dogs, trust is constructed through repetition the body can rely on. Each short absence that resolves calmly contributes to that process. Every return that feels familiar, rather than emotional or corrective, adds another layer of stability. Consistent tone matters, steady movement matters. Predictable presence teaches the nervous system what to expect. At first, the body assumes nothing. Preparation dominates. Muscles remain ready. Awareness stays high. Rest feels unsafe because uncertainty remains unresolved. That response is not pessimism, it is protection. The body prepares because it does not yet know how the story ends. As the same pattern repeats, internal processing begins to shift. Separation no longer feels open-ended. Waiting stops carrying the same weight. The nervous system starts recognizing closure. Absence gains a predictable conclusion. Tension no longer builds endlessly. Relief arrives reliably. This understanding does not come from reassurance or explanation. Dogs do not reason themselves into calm. Calm is learned through experience. Repeated outcomes reshape expectation. Over time, expectation rewrites behavior. The body stops preparing for loss because loss never arrives. Scanning decreases because nothing requires management. Muscles soften more quickly. Rest becomes possible even during absence. Pacing slows, sleep deepens. Stillness no longer feels unfinished. Safety becomes familiar rather than hoped for. When a dog truly learns that return is reliable, waiting loses urgency. The body rests because experience has proven that nothing needs guarding. Absence becomes a pause, not a threat. That internal shift changes everything. The bottom line, what love looks like when you're not there. This was never about tricks, routines, or perfect timing. What matters most is the state left behind when the door closes. Dogs do not need elaborate setups or constant reassurance. The body needs to feel settled before separation begins. When safety is present, regulation completes naturally. Breathing slows, monitoring fades, rest follows without effort. That is what love looks like in absence. Not stimulation, not distraction. Predictable calm that the nervous system can trust. Over time, that calm becomes familiar. Familiarity replaces anticipation. Absence no longer triggers preparation. Waiting no longer feels unresolved. Rest fills the space until return happens again. If this perspective helps deepen understanding, subscribing can keep these insights coming. This channel focuses on the quiet signals dogs use to communicate safety. Because the moments that seem ordinary are often the ones shaping behavior the most.